to 20-story buildings that are just your conventional stuff you get in most cities. And then you got these super buildings like on Hudson Yards, like 432 Park, all these high rises, 100 stories high. They're the animals where you don't walk in the door. We had to wait a month to get into Hudson Yards to be approved with all the insurance paperwork. Then we had to go through bomb sniffing dogs and a full inspection of the truck in a separate facility before we could even get to the building to unload. Then you've got to have a relationship with the security guard in there, which you were talking about, how things work in the real world. There's ways of sometimes that make that facilitate that a little better. But 432 Park, we had to arrange days in advance just to have a delivery, because you had to get a slotted time when you were allowed to use the elevator, and only that slotted time. If you didn't show up, you had waited till the next time, which could be days later, the same coming out, and they give you a slot. So talk about organized.
There was unmitigating circumstances there, simply because that building was a brand new building. There were 5 large-scale projects going on in that building pre-COVID. COVID hits, they shut it down. They open up the building, they let everybody back in. Everybody. I mean, lines around the block like you were at the Apple store.
Yeah, we're standing online for
And it's knowing how
hours.
to navigate that. We were standing in line for the first couple of days for 2 hours until I spoke to a gentleman at the gate who was the security guard. He pointed me in the general direction of somebody else. He pointed me in the general direction of somebody else. Who pointed me in the general direction of somebody else. And then from that day on, we used a different entrance into the building.
Yeah.
We used a different elevator. And we got up, because our slot was 9:30. So we would get there anytime before that. It's just knowing how to navigate the buildings. I mean, some of them are easy. And if you've been there before and you take care of the people that are there, you'll always get back in again. But never forget, because certain things happen in building. Super runs the building, so he'll tell you what the next big project is coming on. If he knows you appreciate his efforts when you're leaving, he's going to call you. And he's going to say to you, hey, I don't know whether you know this or not, but there's a thing coming up. Do you want me to give a card? Yes, give a card. So you're going to get a call. Then the doormen and the service guys know what's going on in the building per se. You know, they hear the gossips, they hear what's going on, and you get that too. If you take care of, if you appreciate them too. And so you know exactly how that building runs. And if you're going to be in there for a lengthy period of time, you've got to know how that building runs. Or you'll be standing outside for 2 hours waiting to get in. And
so you don't want to forget an essential piece of equipment, which is why I say systems. You really got to be organized, which is the case in most, even in your standard elevator building in the cities. You just get staff that goes, we're not running up and down all day, even though that's their job, to bring you in and out just because you forgot something from the truck. They want you to make some of them one trip in, one trip out, and that's it. They don't want you to even go out. Someone will tell you can't go out for lunch. We let you in, and that's it. And you come out at 4 o'clock.
And you find that out in day one. What are the rules? Even though they're unofficial rules, what are the rules? How does it work here?
Yeah.
In at 9, out at 4, no problem. So everybody knows you got to bring the lunch and all the stuff that goes with it.
You adapt. I've been doing it my whole life. I worked the city. I'm used to it. You figure out where to park, what ticket to take, what ticket not to take.
Mr. Cassidy, king of the fleet program.
I've heard about this.
Heard about the fleet program. Well, I'll let him explain, because it was either.
Yeah, what is the fleet program for everyone out there?
Program where you can register your truck with New York City and agree in advance to pay a stipulated fine for a ticket for every zone, and they're all numbered. If you look on your tickets, they'll put a code 46, 32, depending, double parking, no standing, daytime limits, and that fine will be reduced if you agree to just pay it and not contest it from 65 to 25. So you weigh the pros and the cons. Like I can pay $25 for not paying the meter, but if I actually pay the meter the rates they want, it'll cost me $40 for the day. So it's cheaper for me to park in a metered spot and not pay the meter
Take the ticket.
and just take the ticket. But you have to know it, and you have to be, and you have to register your truck, and you have to do all this stuff. It takes a while to go through all the paperwork, but once you're there, you learn to use the system, and you go where nobody else is parking. No parking 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. That's a no standing daytime limits. That's a $25 ticket. Everybody else is getting $95 for parking there, and I'm just taking the ticket because I know it'll come in on the report, and Jody just pay it. It's $25. So it's cheap parking. But I didn't learn that for long. But experience. You learn things as time goes by.
And it's how you wonder why, you're driving down, you're driving around the city, you see the UPS trucks with a bunch of tickets stuck in them.
Yeah.
Because they just take them all day, because no matter what's cheaper than them trying to park somewhere.
Because you can't park on Fifth Avenue, but I park on Fifth Avenue because I know it's going to be reduced to $25. So I'll just park right in front of the building, where nobody else will park, because I know what the ticket's going to, because I'll look up the code and I'll make it determine, oh no, I'm not going to park here. It's a school zone or a hydrant. No. But double parking, it's $25. It's $65 for everybody else.
Don't you park and block somebody in when you double park though?
You put it, but yeah.
What do you do?
What do you do? You're legally allowed to do it. You get the ticket, write the name,
This poor guy.
you write your name and phone number on, and let them call you.
Okay, that's fair.
That's a new one to me.
Yeah, I write the phone number on it, and then it doesn't matter because they're going to bitch no matter what. They're going to come down and scream and yell at you, and you go, I didn't even need to come down and move my car. You can call a cop if you want. I don't really have to move. I can, but then you could get towed. So it's a kind of a.
So, in the estimating process,
That's true.
half your cost is not to paint things or prep. It's not even the job.
No.
How do you? That's what scares me is how the heck you estimate this stuff.
So give me that again.
So, we work in some towers in Boston, big ones for Boston. It's like the breeze. They're so nice. You. There's no one. You come and go. Once you sign in, you come and go. Use the elevator 14 times. No one cares.
It ain't like that. Ask Chris. It's not that simple.
And once you get to know it, once you know it once, you always know it. It's not a surprise. If you're going to 612 Park, you don't walk in the front door of 612 Park. You stand outside and the doorman will open. And you look at you, you'll see you're wearing a logo, so he knows you're a tradesman. You say, "Where's the service?" Around the corner, then you go to service. Yeah, and that. And you just, you're only here for an estimate, so you go up. They're good like that, but when they know you're going to be there, and you just know the workings of the buildings. As Kieran said, the older buildings are a lot more lax. They're a lot easier to get into. They're a lot more difficult to navigate sometimes, simply because first thing you hit when you walk in that gate is these steps heading down, into the basement. They got them, but that's steep and that stuff. But they don't have all the major cons that a lot of the buildings, the newer ones, have, like bigger elevators and and easier access and egress routes.
and we can't do a lot of the things that you're comfortable doing, like haul all these compressors in, spray oil, do any oil. It's becoming really difficult to do what gives you a great job in New York City. It's on the alteration agreement that the tenant gets or the client gets. No oil, and do we still do it? Of course we do. Because I always.
Now, can you go to bat for that? Can you go to bat and like here's how we're going to control it. We're going to run HEPA. We're going to you're going to be safe. Blah blah blah.
Best way to do it is just do it. Do all that, and then if you have a problem, plead ignorance.
Yeah.
Usually the only way around.
I thought it was water-based. I didn't even realize.
It's rare that you'll have a problem. The only time we had a problem recently, I remember, that became a problem was on a job in Brooklyn. You remember Lindsay's? We done our office ceiling and walls in high gloss. In high gloss, and the neighbor said, "I can smell this oil. My kid is here. He's got asthma. He's got this." They call the EPA.
The EPA.
He calls me. Kieran calls me. He said, "Where are you?" I said, "Why?" He says, "You better get down here." They call the EPA. All right.
And the EPA actually came out.
Come on. They took. I don't know what did they do. They took.
They came in. They thought it was a joke. They were like, smells like a, because we had negative air in the room, and it was a small room, and I had the negative air running constant. But you know, there was a certain amount of migration, I guess, through the outlets into, because it was a you know, a dividing wall. So there's probably some sort of, you know, you can't 100% evacuate, no matter even how good you run it. And it was done in the middle of winter, and the wind was whipping up all the time. It was just nasty right along the water out in Brooklyn. But anyway, he was just difficult. He was just one of those difficult. You've talked the other night, Zach, about you've come across some difficult clients. So you know what I'm talking about. They're the nicest clients, and then all of a sudden you go, where did that come out of? You know, and you know.
So I talked about that, and we're going to do it. Cut to the commercial.
We should just mention briefly that for the people that checked in that don't know about Patreon, that you have a Q&A on Sunday nights, that if you want technical information from Zach or some of the best guys in the country, that's the forum to check into and learn. Because a lot of valuable information can be shared there on that forum. I liked it. I thought it was a great way to start it. And I hope, I wish you good luck with that. I think.
Yeah, I didn't know. He just told me, and I said, oh, okay, so I'll check it out this week. You know?
Yeah, we have, for those of you guys who are listening, we started a Patreon. I'm going to be responding to lots of DMs in the coming months with, go to Patreon, sign up, ask the question on the Q&A. Because I'm tapped out. I've answered hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions. I get dozens of them daily. I love giving back. But I just can't keep up.
Yeah.
And I can't answer the same question 1,300 times. It's starting to drain on me. And so I just decided we're going to put a $15 paywall up. If you pay $15 a month, you get to come in, you get to listen to these private Q&As, and you can ask questions.
You never know who's going to chime in and give an opinion, and you're going to learn some stuff.
Yeah. I love it. It's private versus this public forum here. Yeah. So we can be a little bit more intimate, a little bit more honest about the whole thing, not just, you know, it's a great platform, and I'm excited for where it will go. All right, so we checked that off. How did you guys get into FPE?
Well, I told you how I got into it. You know, I was doing it when it was Schroeder.
Yeah.
You ever remember when it was called Schroeder?
I've seen old gallons.
That's when I started using it.
I think I was a little behind Kieran, though my certification was sooner. We would use it, and it was Haskellak or Oberex then, and it would come in quarts. And you know, we were working in the Westchester area. We were based in Chapel then as Finglas Painting way back. And you know, I think somebody says, well, I'd like you to, you know, can you paint my door in this stuff? We've never seen it before, but luckily enough, we had experience painting oil. Made one or two mistakes with it, but you know, that's how we got into it. You know, we'd end up painting a front door or a mailbox or something with high gloss, because that's all dabbling. Yeah, that's all that was available.
Dabbling.
And then Mr. Leahy Senior, God rest him, came down to Chappaqua with young Mr. Leahy to set up the store that was Greeley Home and Hardware. And I don't know whether they had asked that they had a painter that was using their product, and we happened to be using more of it. And she had said, the owner had said, you know, he likes it a lot. Then we said, send him up for certification. And that's how it started for me. And I don't know who was first. I was on the second certification. I think it was, God, I can't remember, 08. Well, John would know. And that's where I met John, young John Leahy up there. And he and I became fast friends. We had a good couple of nights, you know, out there in the wilds of Vermont. And again, we came back and I couldn't find the market for it. I just, you know, it was just the doors or columns or stuff like that. And I kind of went away for a while. And, you know, then about 5 or 6 years, you know, ago, we started using it and we got into it more. And then we find ourselves in a situation where we lowball the project. I knew I lowballed it on 86th Street. What did he say?
I said he doesn't know. I can't remember what you're talking about. I think that's what he said.
Lowballed a big project on 86th Street just to get the experience. I knew it's either, you know, get into this, get all into it, or don't get into it at all. Got a lot of positive kind of, you know, stuff from John. Go give it a shot, try and do it, you know. And that's when I met Kieran, and we done one project, and he was on another, and that's when we kind of got together. But it's been a game changer for us, just a complete game changer.
Yeah. I've been painting my whole life. I loved Pratt and Lambert, and I always loved Pratt and Lambert's paints. And then they kind of went on the downhill. I dabbled with fine paints because I didn't know enough about them. I didn't really understand the paints. There was no learning system out there to teach you. You kind of had to just figure it out. Some of the guys, you know, put their heart and soul into it, like John Shearer, and they figured it out a lot earlier and really became what they are today. I decided just, I think probably about 5 years before Jody and I got together now, what, maybe 2 years?
3, I think, but 3.
3? Jeez.
He's a 10.
So maybe a little longer. That I just wanted to focus on doing really good paint jobs. And I just started focusing on fine paints. And I really did focus on fine paints. And I don't know if that was right after I went up for certification or just kind of right around the same. But there was a time where I made a conscious decision to switch what I was doing. I didn't want to just be a regular painter, just doing standard paint jobs. It was boring. I enjoyed the challenge that fine paints brought to me back then. And then I realized the qualities, but it was a challenge to apply it. So I had to figure it out. And I started to try to figure it out. Now, did I know everything when I went up to certification? No. I was like you. It was like a fabulous, thing to go up to certification and sit, with Chris Polidoro and John Shearer and some of the other, masters that were up there at that time, and just be in the same room with these guys. You just looked up to them. You were just, wow, and then start to, hone your craft. I really got into it, and I haven't looked back. Fine Paints has definitely helped build our business. It's our business model is based on fine paints. We love it. We love it.
I mean, and with the introduction, of course, of the the Eurolux flat, the Eurolux matte in the 5s, and making it so affordable, and it being so, it gets so much coverage out of it, and then of course the Uni comes along, and for us, we found a great portion.
I love Uni. Yeah, I love Uni. It's I'm trying to convince a lot of people how good a product it is. It when you use it for all the things it's designed, and you just it really works. It builds really well. It levels like oil. So in the city market for us, it's a game changer for me working in the city because it allows us to do so many different things that we couldn't do before.
We had found ourselves in a very unique situation. Again, going back to that 3D printed column, we couldn't find a product that would adhere to it because it's not plastic. It's something what do they call it, PDX or something? It's some weird thing. Because he said, "Why don't we try key primer? Key primer, got it, no problem." Then we had a filling issue that we did, but we couldn't find anything that was good enough, that would dry quick enough that we could multiply coat. And then John comes along with the Uni, and he said, "Give the Uni a try."
Well, the Uni's benefit was we couldn't spray oil on that job.
Yeah,
so Jody gave, what they did to us? He goes and sells the job. They give you a 3D rendering of what they want it to look like, but no specs. We want you to make it look like this. Here's a sample of this poorly printed plastic wave that, when it all comes together, forms this beautiful column, which you've seen. And my job was to take it from a plastic, corrugated, roughly with a million lines in it or grooves, and make it smooth like glass. It took me 2 months of R&D just.
And I think we threw a bunch of them down the stairs one morning at about 1 a.m. and because we couldn't get it right.
I mean, I even had him standing, which
ridiculous.
I got it on video.
Absolutely
which you
ridiculous.
won't see very often. Actually, see him doing some work.
No,
in the shop,
I don't know what happened there.
but it was a lot of work. But Uni gave us a fabulous satin sealed colored base coat.
Ridiculous.
It was the perfect primer for that job, and it's been the perfect primer for anybody who wants a TR base that can't use oil anymore on skim coat or wood or any kind of new wood trim.
Now I will say, because I know EDG is on here listening because they know we're on tonight. I will say that the 3D printed concept that they came up with is 6 years in the making. What they've done is now they've created an AI, am I correct? An AI program.
Yep.
So they can recreate any look. It's limitless with this, and they've made it. You know, they're I think they're talking to a couple of big clients now about that, and it's the same thing. They had issues the same as we had issues. They were using, you know, outside vendors to print these forms because they had to get them quicker and the timeline was running out. So they gave us just what they had. We had to figure it out. They were generous enough to never take the R&D off us. So we have that. And they were great to work with. They really, really were. We've got 2 or 3 other projects coming up.
Yeah, they're cutting edge.
They were fantastic.
They're cutting edge.
Was that an Irish way of saying that they paid you for your R&D?
No, but
what do you mean they didn't take the R&D off?
Well, they wanted us to sign an agreement about the R&D, and they didn't hold us.
Oh, like
yeah,
to take your proprietary.
Well, they wanted
to take all my hard work. Yes.
Well, they look. They were very good about it.
Can we? I'm interested in the money, the numbers on that project.
Yeah.
What you're describing to me terrifies me. Bidding a project without on something like that without making the spec first. We do some stuff like that, and now it is like, hey, I'll make you a spec off of what you're going to have there, and then I will price it.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of came a different way because they have been doing this on the facades of buildings for many years. They've been doing it on facade. They're a big company. Getting into this other market now where you can build, you know, these portions of these pieces and put them together like a jigsaw puzzle and make an absolutely original.
They're one of a kind.
So that's exterior rated product.
Well, no, the stuff they're doing now, the outside stuff they were 3D printing was in concrete for stars of buildings, and now they've moved into this other market.
Think of it as a unique sculpture, one of a kind that can be manipulated by the client through an AI program to get exactly what they want, and then we're the guys that are going to go in. Once they've designed the concept, we're the guys that are going to make that come to life, whether it be a high gloss oil or a satin or a metallic finish. So there has to be a little bit of give and take if you want, because it's all brand new. It's all one of a kind. It's the first of its kind.
And the way things ended up, it couldn't have been worse and it couldn't have been better because they gave us the most difficult, unconceivable concept because it kept changing. First of all, it was height loss. That's how we got involved because they called Fine Paints and they said, "Who's your guy in New York?" So they said, "Give Jody and Kieran a call." And you know,
we got the job.
And we were under the impression it was just we're going to shoot some high gloss on some panels. We started with the high gloss, brought it down, didn't like it. They sent them out to LA. The clients in LA, they said, "No, we didn't like it. I wanted something shiny." Okay, so we come up with, you know, some of the, I don't know what it was, Modern Masters or something we started out with. You know, oh, don't like that because I don't want to see the ridges. So this thing had to be smooth. Then it had to be like an outer body finish. Then he said, "No, I want it looking like gold." And we would make these panels and send them, ship them. We're not send them to New York, ship them out there, and every time we back.
Did you get paid for that process?
No, we didn't. But
I spent months of my time in the shop doing R&D.
we now, we're the only guys that will do it for them. That can do it for them, because they were gracious enough to allow us just to do whatever it was we had to do, not monitor us, bring the panels down, put them together, fill in the gaps, shoot them, prime them, finish them, take it down. And we had one or two little issues. We're going back next week to do some small touch-ups on the base of it. But one or two little issues. And unfortunately, Kieran wasn't there with me that day, but John was. I brought John with me up to take a look at it, because even Kieran had said to me, do you think you want to go up and take a look at it? I said, it's not even so much about the metallic finish. It's what got us to be able to lay down these ultra thin coats, with a perfect base, the key primer, the uni, perfect base. And this thing just took to it, the metallic finish just took to it like a duck to water. They just lay down absolutely beautifully. And there's something about, meeting everybody up there on the day. And even though, we were going there to look at some minor cracking on it, the company that hired EDG, the company that hired us, their boss was there. His first reaction when he seen it, when he came over to us and he shook my hand, he said, "Cannot believe I did that." And there was one of the only times I said, I wish Kieran was here. Because, I feel a little bit of...
Kieran did that.
He wasn't there. No, he was somewhere. I'm not... Because I said to him, I said, "Are you coming to this meeting?" He said, "If I never see that bloody thing again..." He said,
listen, it burned me out.
If I never see that column again.
I was working that last week with me and Les. We were working 10 to 12 hours a day on that column. We would get there, crack of dawn, and they allowed us to stay because they were under a deadline. They had a big film shoot coming into that apartment, and they needed it done by X date. So we were there till 7:30 at night, and then it'd take me an hour and a half to 2 hours to drive home. I was getting home at 9 o'clock at night, getting back up at 6 and driving back in the city. That went on for a whole week. That was the finished part of it. So it was a lot of work, but I'm always up for a challenge. The challenge for me was I had to make something out of nothing and create something, which is...
I love that. I don't like it. I don't like it when you don't make... I think you should be making extra money for that.
Well,
you have to have a little patience.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I know.
Where we are with it now was...
You put in all the footwork to figure it out. So now now we know how much to price it per square foot. And it's
there's a fluctuating scale for it when it comes to the pricing. First of all, the 3D printing of the panels are going to be 100% better.
Yes.
So they're going to be uniform, which means all the filling, all the stuff that goes with it doesn't have. They're more inclined to be less of metallic finishes, more. They're talking high gloss. They're talking matte, dark. They're doing a wall in their office, a big wall. I think it's about 60 by, I don't know what, 10. They're going to do that in a very kind of, AI alien kind of paneling, and they want it really, really low luster finish. I'm thinking eggshell oil or eggshell, or matte maybe on it or something like that.
Yeah,
just in black or a dark gray or something.
You know how I jump around with questions. My brain goes all over the place. I was just thinking about complications, and you brought up something on Patreon the other night, the experience you had, and I haven't had it, but it got my attention. You had done a job, Zach, where you had rolled FP matte on a surface, and you did it in the winter, and the wall was cold, and you got different sheen levels because it reacted differently where the studs were versus the rest of the wall. And how would you now, knowing that, would you not use matte in the winter time, or just say you can't use this finish this time of year, or would you heat up the space? Because that's a technical issue. So the sheen on matte is absolutely gorgeous, a beautiful, beautiful finish, but if you see those telescoping lines, because the wall was cold, because the metal was transferring the cold from outside, obviously in, right? And it did.
So I wonder, I'm not sure, but we sprayed those walls, and so I think that could have added something to it. The paint not being manipulated, just like being sprayed and left. It might have accelerated that versus like actually working the paint.
Yeah, do you find if you spray the mat, do you find you get a different sheen level than if you cut and roll it? It's more smooth, right?
It's smoother and definitely has a little more sheen to it. We honestly, since that and since the other project we sprayed walls, like I'm not trying to spray walls anymore. The price that I charge to spray walls prices us out of it. Instead, I've spent a lot of time trying to get the smoothest wall finish we possibly can off a roller. And that I find to be much more cost effective. And I just sold it to a client yesterday or last week.
Amazingly with a roller. I mean, you get a fabulous finish with a roller. I mean, you don't have to spray it. Spraying it is a whole different, like you said, a whole different concept.
Well,
it takes the price point and
drives it right through
through the roof. And I don't think that it's worth it.
Are you with 9 inches? Are you going 14 or 18s or with mat?
It depends on the size of the project. Honestly, but what we're doing is we're adding a lot of extender. We're putting it on as heavy as possible. We're working it the least amount possible. And it's just like spraying. We're trying to put a nice film on, wet film, and let it lay out. And when you roll walls like most people are trained to roll walls to get the gallon to stretch.
Yeah.
Well, now you don't get that, right? You don't get stretch the paint and get a glass finish. I find that by putting a heavy amount of paint on, just working it enough that it doesn't sag.
Yeah.
The maximum amount of paint that the wall paint doesn't sag, which is not how you normally paint walls. So again, that's a different. I would sell that. I would sell that differently. Okay, this is a modern home. We're spraying all your trim. The baseboard and the walls are flush to each other. All right, spend some more money, a few more dollars a square foot of wall space, and let's do the best finish we can get off a roller. Now, if I walk into Mrs. Jones' living room and I just repaint her living room, I'm not selling her on laying out like glass wall paint, right? Because that's going to involve a coat of primer, extensive sanding, less coverage per gallon, way more attention to detail. It's not just we're repainting this room. We are now like making a finish. And so I don't sell that too much because I don't think most people value that.
Yeah, it's a difference, with trim and everything. Like if you're talking about, selling them a nice, eco satin finish or something like that, they can kind of get their head around the concept. But whatever it is with walls, they just think walls are seen as just roll them,
Until you see it, and unless it makes sense with design. Like I look at it like so much of my sales process is like aesthetics. It's aesthetics. It's expectations and budget, right? But it's like, what is the design aesthetic that you're going for? And I have a deep knowledge of coatings. I will tailor a coating system to meet your design aesthetic.
We lost a project on in the city last year for a decorator, and we our numbers were completely different than the contractor's painter, and that was fine. Yeah, I called her and I asked her about it. She said, "No, Joe, that's gone." I said, "Okay, it's fine." And she calls me like months later and says to me, "Can Caroline give you a call?" I said, "Sure, but what? I don't want to get into this. I'm finished there. Can she give you a call?" So she gives me a call. We go and take a look. They done decent paint job around the apartment. Again, very nice apartment on Fifth. But they attempted to do a high gloss in his den/office. And I walked in there. It wasn't an FPE job. They put some kind of generic gloss on it, but they rolled it on. Terrible, wouldn't even, begin to describe it. And he's losing his mind, and I said to him, "Well, what is it you were expecting?" He said, "I didn't even want this shiny stuff in here." He said, "I wanted something, it's my office, my couch is going here, my TV's going there."
This is Caroline's?
Caroline's, yeah. And so I said, let me take a video. Let me see what I can come up with. So I sent it to him on WhatsApp. We do that a lot because then he gets it right away. So if there's something I missed, or he'll send me a message right away, so I'll remember to ask that. It's a little concept that works for him and I. Generally, I don't use it, but even today, I was filming this small little apartment because the trim is a mess and it's all black. One of those ones that the other painter's done. And I was just, wanted him to see it right away and to see if there was anything he had to add to it. He never got back to me, so there wasn't. But he had said, I think he got back to me when I was just finishing up there, and he says, what, if he doesn't like it, why are they doing them in high class? So I said to him, look, we've a different idea for you here. You might like it better. We will fix the ceiling. We'll take the shiny stuff off the ceiling. So a nice flat finish on the ceiling. Why don't we skim coat the walls and put a beautiful, nice, soft, matte finish on it? Okay. Give me a price. Give him a price. Went for it. Send the guys in there, skimmed them out, rolled out the mat, flat ceiling, eco satin on the trim. I mean, best room.
It was one of those where I played.
Yeah.
I hadn't used. I'd seen you using the knives, Zach. You were playing on that black apartment, and I said, let me try that. So I took the 48-inch knife, and I had the guys skim the walls on that with the 48-inch knife. Under matte, you know how beautiful that level of finish was. And I actually sprayed the walls in the matte. So, yeah, I sprayed just because I did spray them. Yeah, because I just felt like it.
The problem is now you're on the hook to touch those up. When they go, can you touch these up? And you go, no, we have to mask off the room and spray. That's why I don't do it, because I'm like, hey, if you want it, we'll do it. But the touch-up's going to cost you a lot.
Yeah. But we pretty much spray all the trim all the time in Eco on almost all the jobs we do. I love Eco. Eco is just a fabulous, fabulous finish. It's easy to use everywhere. There's no limitations. We can use it in Manhattan, dries quickly. It's a super durable finish. I love Eco. I love Eco. It's got probably it and matte are probably my two favorite finishes. I love
matte is my favorite.
Yeah, I love matte, and I love Eco, and I push those two for the most part if I can. But the problem with matte is that most of the time you want to do a skim coat under it to get it to look as good as it can look. So if they're not going to do a skim, then we
just use
flat. Yeah, which is bulletproof. I think just called bulletproof coating or something like that. That kind of name.
We're doing a nickel gap accent wall behind the master bedroom.
Yeah, that
right now in flat.
On my agenda to learn that. I spoke with Robert and I wish I had known about those classes when he taught them, when you guys did that first round of them, whatever it was, 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing, the stuff that you're doing with that.
I love your, I'm going to learn it one way or the other. And bring.
When you get the spray booth, do it. I wouldn't do it until you get the spray booth because it's not going to be very valuable.
Yeah.
We're doing some stuff we're doing a few projects in New York, but they're all done in our shop and shipped.
Yeah, and you ship them down?
It's polyester, man. If you can't spray oil in your buildings, you're never going to spray this stuff.
No, I know the polyester. Yeah.
Holy crap. Now, they're going to have a water base coming out, which could change things. But I think I wouldn't go down the metal road until you get the booth, because they go hand in hand.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that. Yeah, you need the booth. Even for oil, you can't shoot it. Like, you're constantly looking over your shoulder.
Let's talk about spray booths then.
All right.
I like talking about spray booths.
Go ahead.
You can educate me. I know you started off with one and you had a wish list, and then you brought in the makeup air, and it changed your game, because now you control the humidity, the temperature, everything. You're able to bake your products in the spray booth, so you're able to ramp up productivity. But I see you sanding in the spray booth, and that was like, why is he sanding in the spray booth?
When did we sand in the spray booth?
I did a video. You were sanding in the spray booth.
I know nothing.
Oh, that was a long time ago, probably.
I don't know.
Yeah, that video I just posted was from when I didn't have double the space. So when I first moved into the space, we had where the spray booth is. And the spray booth took out 3/4 of our shop. We had this little tiny section in front of the booth to work.
Right.
And then we had the booth. It was a ridiculous thing to do. And then I had upstairs, which was just storage. But recently, I can't remember now. It's been over a year, I think, close to a year. We grew into the other side of the space. So now we have all of our prep on one side, and then we have our spray booth on the other side, and then we really just have sort of a staging area now where we used to do all of our work. I bought the downdraft table for like $7,000 because we were sanding right in front of the spray booth, and we were just going insane on dust.
That's a huge investment to put into a sanding. Tell me, how does that pay off? How do you get a return on investment on $7,000 sanding table? Because it's just sucking down the dust.
It sucks down the dust, but I mean, you're talking about it's a very different environment.
How many people can work on that sanding table?
2 people.
Can you get two?
Yeah, you could. It's one. If I were to do it again, if I like, as you go to your new space, I would get a larger one.
What is
like 9, right?
Yours?
And what's that?
What sizes is that?
72 by 36, maybe.
Oh, okay.
But you get a bigger one because you want to sand the doors, the big door?
I want 2 people to be able to work.
Well, that's why I asked, because that's how I looked at it when you said $7,000. I go, what? Because I only see one person working on that table. So how do you get a return on investment?
I think that honestly, I wouldn't run in and get one until you get to the spot where, I mean, it dramatically cuts down on dust from the sanding that you're doing. Yeah. It's also a massive air scrubber. Like it's 5,000 CFM of constant cleaning the air.
But do you still use the vacuums with the hoses, even though you're using it? So it's
oh yeah.
Really only the 10% that you're missing that the vacuum is not picking up that's really coming off that, right?
It's for the metals, it's huge, right? If we didn't have it, there'd be metallic dust powder over my entire shop.
Yeah.
There would be paint. I mean, we get a subtle film anyway, very subtle, but it is so much less that we don't have like a dirty space that we're sanding in. It's a clean space because the air is constantly being scrubbed, and a lot of our sanding is going into the. I will also say having carpet has actually been awesome.
Having what?
We have carpet in our prep space.
Commercial
carpet. Yeah, it was already there from when I had offices there for the social media company, and it is nice because it keeps the dust down. Right, it gets trapped in the carpet, and then you vacuum up the carpet. Mm-hmm. Versus, concrete floors where the dust is just sitting there getting kicked up.
Yep.
The whole time.
You have a solvent recycling thing too. Do you?
Ooh, that's a game changer.
Much of the lacquer when you stick it in there.
What do you say?
Solvent recycling. I know you got one. How much of the lacquer are you able to recycle back out? Percentage, 50%, 80%.
So lacquer. So what the solvent recycler acts as a sink for oil stuff, right? So we don't add chemical to it. There's a 55-gallon drum of premium solvent, whatever that means, and whatever makes it special is that it doesn't evaporate, and it's like paint thinner that doesn't evaporate. So it can sit essentially in an open container and stay there for a long period of time. So we don't add thinner to it. We are using it just like you would turn on the sink and rinse out your stuff.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I didn't understand that. All right. So it just recycles the material back.
It siphons off the top of the 55-gallon drum. It siphons right off the top. So then all of your paint settles to the bottom, and a year in you'll have 2 feet of paint in the bottom or whatever it is. You take it out, get a new one, and it has saved us thousands of gallons, at this point hundreds, maybe thousands of gallons of thinner.
I'm asking, yeah.
And thousands of dollars, and the time is out of control. I mean, imagine having a sink to wash out your oil brushes.
Jesus.
That requires, so you clean them, and then when you're done, you take a splash of thinner in a bucket and do your final rinse after they're already clean in an ounce of thinner, and you're done. And there's no waste. And the speed is so much faster. And I can't even tell you, it's the best. It's only like $1,000 for that setup. Maybe it's $1,100 all in. It's the best investment I ever. It's the most profitable tool we own.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Attention. Okay.
That thing, and it's good for the environment. It's a win-win.
Boy.
It's a win-win. Yes. So spray booth. So I've seen you spray in an automotive downdraft booth.
Mm.
What is that all about?
That was we got a call from a local guy, asked us to come and do his kitchen. He owns an auto body shop, and he was very gracious with us because we found ourselves in a situation at the same time as he was doing his kitchen. We were doing the repair. We took over a Christopher Peacock project from a painter that was hand brushing oxblood red. No, he wasn't certified. He wasn't certified.
Wasn't?
No. He was hand brushing oxblood red hide loss right on top of bin, prime coat. Right
as one does.
It was just a
disaster. And what happened was, we're on a job, and John called me. He said, "Are you in the city?" I says, "No, but Kieran is." He says, "Can you have him go and look at this thing for Peacock?"
We were down on that Park Place.
And he was down in we were in Park Place doing the hide loss down there. And Kieran goes over and takes a look at it, and the other painter was there, and he just didn't know. And unfortunately, it's the key component of working for, shall we say, instead of naming that particular company, these big cabinet companies, is that, and they're not willing to pay the money that it costs to do this job. Because me and another gentleman who will remain nameless, I know he knows who he is, priced it. And I called him up and I says, "Chris, oh, yeah, all right. So much." I says, "Your number was 100% right. 100% right." And he was really high. And they had to pay us to fix it. And if I told you what they paid us to fix the thing, it's ridiculous, because they just didn't know. They had to get us in there, had to start from scratch. And the client was beyond irate because this guy didn't know what he was doing. And all it was simply, instead of going directly over the prime coat that it came with, all he had to do was lightly sand it and get TR base primer in the oxblood red and shoot it.
So we don't have a spray boot, Zach, yet. We borrow one when we have to.
What?
Borrowed that from the client.
We were talking about it. No.
Just
we were talking about this, and Ronnie says, "Why don't you bring them to the shop and do them there? It's empty on nights, it's empty on weekends. You're welcome to use it anytime you need."
So I did.
So we did, and we have that option still.
And what an experience it was.
The whole thing was a great experience. I look back on that and go, how the hell did I do that? Because it was the most challenging, one of the most, it takes a lot to challenge me, but that was challenging. You have no idea how complicated that space was. And the doors were huge, and they're all nickel hinges on them, and we had to figure out a way. I figured out a way how to paint the doors in place. It took a while.
We ended up having to buy the hinges, or buy sets of hinges from the company, change them out, shoot them with the old hinge, with the hinges we bought on them, take them off, put the new hinges back on, then the hinges that we bought, throw them in a bucket of lacquer tint and clean them off. And we've been using them.
It's something that I took from that job and I incorporated into a huge amount of jobs today. Basically, when I go into any of the big jobs in the city and I want to paint the doors in place, we bring a second set of hinges. If there's 3 hinges, we swap out the top 2 with cheap hinges, spray the doors in place, put back the original hinges, and the door, we never have to take the door off, never have to move it anywhere. It's all painted in place. It cuts down on labor. We talked about, how to figure out how to save money and be productive on jobs.
We just done a big apartment
So
on
you need a
40th
range
Street.
of different sizes of hinges. But some of these doors, as you know, Zach, the front door, the doors are monsters on a lot of these apartments. They're 10-foot doors. They're solid core.
MDF, yeah.
They're just they weigh a ton. So to take those off and start trying to put them on sawhorses and sand them and spray them, that's just so much labor. It's so much easier just to do what we're doing. But you think it would be a basic thing that everyone would figure out, but no. But I figured out a way to do it.
A trailer and fast rack equipment, and then, oh my God, we manipulate 10-foot solid mahogany doors with a pinky.
Oh, we know. Listen, I had all solid, masonite doors on that rack that I built myself, and it works great. But as I said, if you can paint the door in place and you don't have to, and it's just a conventional, it's an eco satin, it's not a high oil. I didn't say high gloss oil. Now that's a whole different animal.
We're not taking them off to do eco satin.
No.
Well, that's my point. But that's one way of doing them in place without destroying the original hinges. So it works for us, and it works very effectively. Yes, I like the fast rack system. You just need a lot of space, Zach. It's great when you live in Rhode Island like you.
Hey, I have
a web page that has all this amount of space. I wish we could get that kind of space down here affordably, but alas, it's not affordable.
So, from what I saw in those videos, you were in like the Rolls Royce of paint spray booths. So now you're kind of screwed, right? When you go to.
I don't know how to compare it because you know what.
Yeah, you were in a full downdraft.
Yeah.
Air unit booth.
And now that booth is gone, and he has a new one. He's a new one. Because he says, we were having a couple of problems with the finish. I was changing this out. This was broke. I just said, just give me a new one. Just put a new one in. So that's what he did.
Been in business for a while and get how expensive a booth that's not producing at the rate it could actually is. And when you first go look at booths, you'll see there's a cross draft booth for $30,000. And you'll go, oh my God, that's so much money. And then there's like, then there's a makeup air unit for another $35,000. And now you're like $65,000. That's insane. Right?
Yep.
And then they're like, you can get a downdraft for like 80, 90. They're like, that's even more insane. But once you walk into a full downdraft booth and all of your projects come out flawless every time you spray them and you don't have to think twice, that changes the game.
Yeah.
That is, with what we do, to walk into a booth and go, I have a 95% chance that this final coat is the final coat.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. You look, I mean, what do you do? If you're going to buy it, you're going to buy the best that's out there. I mean, why even?
I actually, until you just told me that, Zach, I didn't know that was where it ranked in spray booths. It was nice. I have to tell you, see me spraying right there without a Tyvek suit because I could see literally the dust just going straight down. It literally just went, you could stand right beside it and not even smell it. I mean, you didn't almost need to wear a respirator. It was that efficient, but we wore them. But
perfect type of spray booth. And it's also the most expensive. But it's a spray booth that goes top down. So clean air comes from above, and it goes straight to the ground, which pushes dust to the ground. And it's best practice, but you have to did you walk up into it, or was it troughs built into the ground?
Troughs
into the ground.
Yes. Well, now you're jackhammering concrete to build ductwork that goes underneath the booth, right? So there's cost associated with a full downdraft, but there's no question it's best practice for dust control.
And I mean, if you look, if you're banging out 4-5 kitchens a month, the profit's right there. I mean, I think it's going to pay for itself in about 3 or 4 years.
You do a few doors, man. We've calculated it costs over $1,000 to have to do another coat on a door.
Yeah.
It costs us, if no drips because of dust, it's about $1,000 to do one more coat on 2 sides of an entry door. So I can't tell you how many doors I've done way more than one coat because of dust.
Oh,
And you like the Sada over the Kremlin for your finishes with the high gloss, I've noticed.
For doors, it's not even close because of waste. A cup gun versus a Kremlin, you can't even compare them. I can spray a door with one side of a door. I can spray with like 8 or 9 ounces of paint total.
Right.
So I have 8 ounces of paint left in the gallon to do my final coat.
why would you bother filling the line with a Kremlin? Yeah, then just put
Kremlin. I got to get 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of thinner to clean the machine. I can clean my cup gun with my sink in under 2 minutes, start to finish. And I can use less than 1 ounce of thinner. So if I'm going to do what I'm going to do on a door, it's not even a question how much cost savings.
But finish-wise,
it's better too.
You think, yeah, you get that little bit better atomization out of the side.
No question.
Yeah, but now we're getting technical because you pay $300 more for that than the Techno Pro Light. Is it really worth that $300?
No, I wouldn't say that. The difference between a Techna, but it's not 3. A Techna is what, $450? The SATA is $650.
I don't think it's. I think all right, maybe it's 7 and maybe change, 7 and change. I don't know if it's $650.
Yeah, but if you're banging out a bunch of doors, I mean, you're talking pennies here, guys. Yeah, pennies.
Talking pennies. What's that? An hour worth of labor? We're trying to bill at 75 in the shop, 85 an hour. Like, dude, if I can save 10, you know. But no, would I say that there is a massive difference between a Techna and a SATA? No. But what I say, if you already own a Techna, hey, keep your Techna going. If you're buying one, the difference of $200 in the scheme of things, not even a question.
Hey, you love your SATA. I seen that. That's all right.
I'm afraid some of our best work came from a Techna, and I like it. I love it. What am I saying? It's a great gun. But when you see the two guns next to each other, there's a clear difference. And for one, we have a air regulator on the gun. It's part of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have an air regulator sitting outside of my gun. It's in the handle. And I adjust my pressure on the gun, and it's digital readout. You know how many regulators I went through with my Techna? You know, they're $40 regulators. They're crap. They break all the time.
All right.
That difference right there probably paid for the difference. So, but I thought you were saying that compared to a Kremlin is what you'd said. But you mean SATA versus DeVilbiss?
DeVilbiss? Well, no, I'm not getting.
DeVilbiss makes Techna. I thought you were saying Kremlin.
No, I just want, Kremlin puts out a great finish. It doesn't atomize just as well as the SATA gun, so you get that little bit better atomization because you just do.
But the Kremlin has huge advantages, right?
Yeah.
Airless to spray a room out.
That's it. That is it. And you bought what was it? The ice maker, the Wagner. Are you keeping that just for water-based coatings, or are you counting for oil?
All of our pumps back and forth. You run enough acetone through them, you're good.
All right. You like the Wagners. You were pushing Wagners a lot.
Like the Wagner gun.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's I don't personally think there's a difference in the piston in the pumps for air-assisted airlesses. Same with airlesses. I don't think there's a difference in the pumps. I think the difference between the Golden gun and the Wagner gun, significantly better, not finish, but maintenance and ease of use and speed of Wagner has 3 key.
Yeah, I know all the fun, but you just said, but not finish. So
No.
So you don't. So why would you want to spray a less? Because it's easier to use that gun. You're talking about the Wagner 4700, right? It's easier to use, easier to clean if you get a spit and this and that. But if it doesn't give you as nice a
it gives the same finish. There's no there's no sacrifice in finish between the Golden Gun and the 4700.
All right, but it's but a more cost-effective gun because everything is less expensive.
I can no tools to take the filters off.
Yeah.
I can change the tip. Those are super helpful.
So you technically are telling me that you would stick a Wagner gun on a Kremlin pump and you'd have a good system.
Oh, all day. I honestly don't think it's ever the pump that's the issue with any of our pumps. You know, they're all built. The Kremlins and the way we use them, I'll never touch the way those things were designed. Those things run 24 hours a day in manufacturing facilities, right?
Never.
Wait for 2 or 3 hours.
It's nothing.
No. And that's where I said, like, I tell anyone that comes to finishing school, if you already own a Kremlin, there's no reason to change. I'm just saying, all things being equal,